So what's it going to take for Carolina to have a successful closing run to the season? Let's turn to Bill Self for advice.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Hope you are doing nothing. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your weekend started. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders and the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can earn $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Joining me today on the program is our good friend, Coach Bill Robinson, head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes. Just 2 games away from the end of the regular season for the Buffs. My man is on, is it 9 out of the last 10 now? I just counted and I've already forgotten.
I think it's 10 of 11.
10 of 11. I was like, it's either 9 of 10 or 10 of 11. I knew 10 was in there. It's crazy the run the Buffaloes are on. Congrats, Coach. Let's wrap up this regular season well and then just keep on rolling. By the way, Coach Robinson has this great book out, Carolina Basketball School, detailing just the history and stories and drills, all of this great content from Coach's 2 decades as part of Carolina Summer Basketball Camp. It's a great thing that you should pick up now and be part of your Carolina experience. Coming up on the show today, we're getting ready for this weekend as Carolina goes to Syracuse. I'm sure it's going to be nice and warm up there. Gross. So we'll do the Four Corners preview. We'll do game details. We'll make game predictions. Look at who Syracuse is this year. We'll get to our weekend whip around because we're at that part of the year where winter sports are winding down, spring sports are starting up, and there's like 8 million different teams in action. But first, where things are at right now is that Carolina has 7 regular season games left. It's time to refocus, and it's time to work at making this final stretch run a success because there is hope. Legitimately, Coach, this is going to be Carolina's, on paper at least, easiest string of games of the season. 6 games before that Duke game, they are all against teams ranked 79th or worse at KenPom, 83rd or worse in the net, and 5 out of these 6 are outside the top 100 at both KenPom and in the net. So, Coach, despite that easiness, this is a team that has not proven they can game in and game out do that easily, right? I think about overtime against Boston College at home as a great example of that. So how do you look at this team and say, all right, guys, we got work to do, but we're not going to overlook any one of these opponents despite what this game looks like on paper?
Yeah, we can look at the schedule and look kind of down the road. As a coaching staff, you're just focused on what's happening now. Who's our next opponent? And there's got to be a focus there that's a little bit different this time of year. Roles have been established. Everybody kind of knows where they're fitting in. Hopefully, they understand exactly what they need to do on a daily basis. You may tweak things here and there, but I would really like to see them just focus on themselves right now. Obviously, you still have scouting reports. You want to be prepared for the next team. But a high majority, maybe half, even 3/4 of your practice plan right now, you're just worried about how we can get better. You go through stretches like this, you feel like you're never going to win another game, and it's a momentum thing. And then when you win one, maybe win 2, then all of a sudden you realize how good you can be, and it starts to roll in the right direction. So I think that's where I would be focused right now as a coach with the Heels.
Coach, we look at that absurd, bonkers, ridiculous, whatever word you want to put on it, non-conference schedule that Carolina went through. I mean, it was a gauntlet of all gauntlets. As even today, still, the non-conference schedule still ranks as one of the very, very best non-conference schedules in the entire country. Right now, Carolina is 6th in non-conference schedule, strength of schedule. That said, this feels to me like the moment that was preparing you for, where it's like, I was almost thinking of it, Coach, you know how a lot of people will talk about, I want to make practice so difficult that the game feels like a breeze. It's almost like you could almost use that analogy here. The non-conference schedule was so nuts to set you up for just a moment like this, that even though things haven't gone well, what can that set you up to do down the stretch here? And Coach, you and I were texting yesterday, and you said, have you seen this thing from Bill Self? I want to talk a little bit about that. And so, Coach, I just want to give you the floor. Give us some wisdom from the head coach of the Jayhawks that the Tar Heels can apply down the stretch here.
Yeah, the post-game interview was about a question came and said, how do you get your team playing well late in the year? How do you go from good to great late in the season? Why do some teams play well late? Why do some not? And he kind of laughed a little bit and said, that's a great question. And really his answer was just a focused energy. And I thought that was brilliant. We talked about it in practice yesterday. It was just that not just energy. Everybody, brings energy, and you got a rah-rah guy who yells and screams and stuff, but it's not that. It's a focused energy. It's almost a quiet confidence. And our best player right now has been scoring great. He's been playing great, and he's just been quieter than he has even maybe a couple weeks ago, because he just seems so focused on it's narrow, and he comes and he has a look on his face every day, and it's just different. But he has that focus. The energy's there, but it's just different. And I think that's what he's talking about. Those old UCLA teams were so great because their practices were harder. They had All-Americans who didn't play. So you're talking about the hardest practice, and that's back when freshmen couldn't play. So you got guys who are super talented that are freshmen playing against the varsity team, and it was harder in practice than it was in regular season or in games. So I think that's the type of practices you have to have right now. You got a little bit more gaps between games. There's not a whole lot of back-to-back type stuff, so you have some time to really go after each other.
It's like, hey, this Bill Walton kid sitting on the bench, he might be pretty good one day when he comes around, because he was part of that freshman that couldn't play. So, okay, Coach, then my question is, obviously we don't talk about that just to talk about it. We talk about it because it can be of use to Carolina. For Hubert Davis and these Tar Heels, how do they take that lesson from Bill Self and apply it to the Tar Heels?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing going into practice today. I think there's got to be an intensity from minute one, from the time that somebody crosses the line. We are the Buffaloes, and we talk about becoming the Buffalo. It's okay to joke and laugh and whatever in the locker room, but as soon as you cross the line and get on that court, you become the Buffalo. And it's something different inside of you that's got to change. I joke around a little bit about being schizophrenic as a person when I came to playing. And even coaching, people see that, I may be one way in the locker or in the office, just joking around and stuff. But when it comes to practice or games, one of my JV kids caught me the other day after a game, and he said, I can see now how you're from Jersey. And I said, what is that supposed to mean? He just laughed, and he was getting ready to practice, and I walked away. But I think he was just alluding to the fact that there is a time to flip that switch, and you become different, and you become focused and more determined, and that intensity rises. And I think we see that in Hubert. Hubert has the chance, to be able to be a nice guy and joke around. But when that time comes to flip the switch, he can flip it really, really quickly. And I've never seen anybody flip a switch quicker than Coach Williams, though. I can, and I will have stories about that sometime during the off season. But he was the master of being able to do that. But it's about motivating those guys. It's about focusing them on going everybody headed in the right direction. And I think that's the most important thing for me right now with the Heels, is to get everybody together on the same page. And we haven't seen that lately.
And another wrinkle in it for tomorrow's game, Coach, is Carolina is obviously on the road at Syracuse. The Tar Heels are 3-6 this season in road games. Last year, they finished the year 8-2 overall on the road. Carolina was 3-2. They had a winning record after the win at NC State. But now they've lost their last 4 road games in a row: at Wake, at Pitt, at Duke, and then Monday at Clemson. Coach, it's not just this Syracuse game. 3 of these 6 games in the stretch before Duke are on the road: at Florida State, at Virginia Tech, and then, of course, this game tomorrow at Syracuse. So how do we apply all these things we're talking about, not just to this game, but specifically to what it means to be a road warrior here?
Yeah, I think this is when you spend time together as a team. Virginia Tech game, probably not. NC State game, obviously, is at home. But the time when you have those road trips where you can actually spend time in the hotel, on the plane, in the bus, and those are times where you can build relationships even tighter. Hey, I know we got some problems right now. Let's sit and talk about it. Or, hey, let's play some cards. Let's just sit around and spend time together, getting to know each other. So I think this is the time to do that. The Syracuse game, obviously, there's not going to be a whole lot to do up in Syracuse. Not like you're just going to walk around outside the hotel. So this might be a time where they do get together. Hey, let's watch a movie together. Let's do something where you're not forcing them, but you are forcing them to be together and really spend some time together. And maybe some of those issues that have been on the court now, you can fix them personally, and maybe that will help when it comes to on the court issues.
I love that. Well, we do need to get to our Four Corners preview. One of these Syracuse players that Carolina's going to have to worry about is J.J. Starling, the Syracuse Orange's leading scorer. Carolina's going to have to deal with that, but they need to get their own two main scorers on the same page. We'll look at that and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Factor, are you looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Well, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 different dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, whatever it is. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love, love, love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. The convenience, man, it's unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in a few minutes. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 off and use code lockedoncollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Again, that's code lockedoncollege50 OFF at factormeals.com/lockedon50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. It's always a good day to be able to have an ode to Coach Smith. It's crazy to think we just passed last week, if I remember correctly, the 10th anniversary of Coach's passing. I cannot believe it's been that long, but that's part of why we love to do this ode to him. Four Corners preview ahead of each game and Four Corners recap after each game. Coach and I are going to jump back and forth, a little ping pong action. Coach Rob, start us off. What's the first in the Four Corners preview?
The big thing for me right now, the last 7 games, RJ's been great and Ian's been bad. And we've been waiting all year for the two of them to get great at the same time. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Is this a great time for those guys to kind of get together and both play great at the same time? So to me, there's no better time. If they could get together down the stretch, it could be something really special. So that's what I've been waiting for all year, and I'm hoping it clicks now.
Man, it's been so great to see RJ finally, when it goes up, it's that same feeling we had last year, Coach, where it's just like that ball is going in the basket right now. It looks good. Feels like he's just in the rhythm and in the flow. And by the same token, as glad as I am for that, you just got to feel for Ian Jackson, he's in it. I'm sure he's in his own head. And just got to be able to find a way to just go play basketball, put the ball in the hoop, and let's make it happen. And so hopefully playing a less than great Syracuse team, although, again, we know Carolina's had their struggles with a lot of teams this year, but hopefully this is a chance to get it going at the same time because, Coach, as you're saying there, if they could, man, watch out. Good luck to every defense around town. Number 2 in the Four Corners preview, who's Carolina going to trot out for their starting 5 in this game? Let's remember that in, I think, 4 of the recent games before Clemson, the starting 5 had been Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble, Ian Jackson, and Van Allen Lubin. On Monday, Coach Davis made an adjustment, pulling out Ian Jackson in favor of Jalen Withers. And I think a lot of people look at that and suspect it might be because of Ian's struggles. It's really more about the size issues that Clemson presented for Carolina, getting Jalen Withers into the front court. Now, as you look at Syracuse, they again might pose a similar problem for Carolina, although it's more in the backcourt because Syracuse, along their starting 5, runs 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", 6'7", 6'11". That don't line up very good for the Tar Heels, who, if it's the Ian Jackson starting lineup we've seen lately, run 6'0", 6'1", 6'3", 6'4", and 6'8". That's not exactly a great recipe. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Coach Davis might not roll with Ian Jackson because of the struggles he's had lately. Remember that when Seth Trimble returned to action from his head injury, it was about 5 games before he came back into the starting lineup. It's been 4 games now since Jalen Washington got hurt in the Boston College game, missed the first Pitt game. He played against Duke, Pitt, and Clemson, but hasn't returned to the starting lineup. So, we don't really know. Has he not returned because he's not fully healthy and ready to go yet, which I think was part of his problem at Clemson the other night? Or is it just because coach thinks Carolina's found something with Van Allen Lubin and he's rolling with that instead? I don't think that we can necessarily know the answer to that question, but coach, I'm really curious to see who comes out as the starting 5 tomorrow.
To me, I you know me and Drake Powell. I just want Drake in the line. So I think if he starts at the 4, great. You start him at the 3, great. I really don't care. I just want him on the floor. And I just think the energy he brings defensively, especially, and they have big guards. He can guard anybody. So to me, that's the only one. Everything else to me is just kind of a mix and match. I'm kind of, loyal towards Van Allen Lubin too. I just think he's tough, and I know he's undersized, and I know he gives up some rebounds sometimes, but he just had he's going to play hard every night. He's just so tough. So
that's right.
I like those guys, and then play the 3 guards, whatever 3 guards you want out of there. I think Ian's struggling. It's just easy to kind of pull him out of the lineup right now. But to me, that's the lineup to go with.
I'm with you, Coach. I was kind of shocked that it was Jay Witt over Drake Powell, and I guess just some of that is experience and a little bit more size against Clemson. But I guess the nice thing here for Carolina is that Syracuse doesn't have that same front court size that Clemson did. As you get down to the 4, it's 6'7", and so I think that would lend itself towards a Drake Powell at the 4, as you said. I like that call. Coach, take us on number 3.
Number 3 to me is just very curious to see how JJ Starling continues his path. He's been I wouldn't say he's hot, but he's just been super aggressive, taking a ton of shots the last couple of games. I think just off the top of my head, I don't have any notes here, but it's over 20 shots each of the last 2 games.
That's correct.
If I remember right too, Boston College, he's taken over 20 shots in both of those games. He must love playing against BC. But I'm really curious to see how he continues. Of course, at home, it's maybe a little bit different, but he doesn't shoot a great percentage either at the free throw line or at just regular field goal percentage. Not a great 3-point shooter, but man, he's just super aggressive. So I'm curious to see who the lineup's going to be. Yes, but who's going to guard him is going to be my really interesting matchup.
Yeah, Coach, to your point, he absolutely has taken over 20 field goal attempts in each of the last 2 games. And of course, the BC game was triple overtime. And then Syracuse loses to Miami in their last game, just Miami's second ACC win of the season. A little head scratching, but again, we don't have much room to talk there. So yeah, Coach, I'm really with you. I think if I'm Coach Davis, I would utilize Seth Trimble on him as your best individual defender in the backcourt. But then you got to worry a little bit because of the size about what that means for Elliot and RJ. So I'm with you. I'm curious to see what will happen there. If not Seth, I think I would trust RJ over Elliot in that role, given Elliot's proclivity for some foul issues. But we'll see what happens. And so then, Coach, my question back to you with what you said, obviously Starling, not a great 3-point shooter, 29.1% on the season, despite taking 5.7 attempts per game. So clearly he likes to get them up. That's the most per game from Syracuse. And he's also, despite, attack mode, like you were saying, he's not exactly a lighted on fire free throw shooter. 71.1% also leads, though, Syracuse in free throw attempts per game. With those 2 things in mind, Coach, what would you do to work at guarding JJ Starling?
Yeah, I would just really talk about have a hand up, stay in front. All right, you're not going to keep him from shooting those threes, but at least don't give up the drive until he makes one out there. Maybe make 2 out there. And sometimes guys like him, if they make the first one, it's a good thing because then he's going to take 2 or 3 more and he's going to keep taking them. But to really try to stay in front as much as possible. And then foul for profit. That's an old Del Harris, philosophy. But and we don't necessarily want the guards to foul because obviously we need him in the game as much as possible. But if he does get by and help comes, whether that's the Jae'lyns or Van Lubin, just hard foul, make him earn it at the free throw line, foul for profit. And maybe he won't be as aggressive getting in there if he knows that it's going to be a little bit more physical too. So nothing dirty, but you want to make sure make him earn at the free throw line and make him make a 3 before you really go out there and guard him too hard.
Coach, I know exactly what you're saying about hoping he makes the first one. I have a buddy I play pickup with, and I love not being on his team, and I love not being on his team and him making his first shot he takes of the game because then he thinks it's like, oh, man, maybe I'm on today, and he'll just jack him up, and then we win easy game. So I completely know what you mean by that philosophy. let JJ pull from. It's kind of like, it reminds me, let's go back to the Alabama Sweet 16 game last year. Both Seth and Elliot hit multiple threes early, and Nate Oates was not dissuaded. He's like, sure, let him keep going. And there's going to be regression to the mean. And sure enough, there was. Fourth in the Four Corners preview, as concerned as I am about JJ Starling, because of Carolina's composition, I might be more concerned about big man Eddie Lampkin, the 6'11", 265-pound center for Syracuse. The second he announced he was transferring last year from Colorado and then announced he was going to Syracuse, I was worried because I knew what Carolina's front court was. Again, he is 30 pounds heavier than the heaviest Tar Heel. That's Jalen Washington, who's 6'10", 235. If he's trying to guard Eddie Lampkin in the post, Lampkin is going to bully him around. Then Alan Lubin, 6'8", 230. He's got 35 pounds on him. On down the list to Ty Clyde, James Brown, Jay Willard. It doesn't matter. They are all 30 or more pounds lighter than Eddie Lampkin. So if I'm Syracuse, coach, I'm pounding it inside over and over and over till you stop me. Maybe some pick and roll action with JJ Starling. See how Carolina navigates that. But to be fair, he's a big man and he's got to guard Carolina on the other side. So what am I doing if I'm Hubert Davis? I'm pick and rolling him to death. Make him get out in space and guard and defend. He's not a great shot blocker, and we'll see what happens there. So, coach, similar to JJ Starling is my question to you. How do the Heels counter? Do they double him? Do they front him? Do they, because Syracuse is not a great three-point shooting team as a team, it's not just Starling, do you sag off and clog the paint as a team? I mean, I know he's not DJ Burns, but he is a pretty good passer. He's the third leading assist man on this team.
It comes back to zone for me. I still love the opportunity to do some little things that they haven't done. Now, the zone was not good the other night against Clemson, so hopefully that's something that they're working on. And they have to buy in, and when I mean they, I'm talking about the players have to buy in that this is something that can help them win games. Fronting him, great idea, but he's so strong he can hold somebody off, just throw it over the top. I have a real hard time with doubling the post just because, like you said, he is a very good passer. If you can get it out of that double, it's going to leave somebody open somewhere. And, you know, if it's a non-shooter, it just gives them an opportunity now that they can slash against the closeout. So there's a lot of different things that when that double comes, if you're not really good at it, we have a team in our league who's really good at it. We have a team, and everybody else who tries it is not very good at it. So when it is practice and it's something that's part of what you do, it can be very effective. Just haven't seen the Heels do it a whole lot. So if they haven't done it a whole lot, they're probably not going to be great at it. I'd rather see something else different done. If you are going to front, you got to put pressure on the wings, got to put pressure on those passers, and have to have some good help backside. So there are options to be able to do it, but I would like to see it mix and match. And variety and change is a Dean Smith staple. So I'd love to see get into some of those things defensively.
Get them guessing, coach. I love it. Well, we want to get to know Syracuse a little bit more beyond JJ Starling and Eddie Lampkin. We'll give you our game score predictions and the weekend whip around. There's a lot of it. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action, man, it's just getting started. And there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you missed the opening tip-off because you were getting a snack or using the bathroom, I don't know what it is, or maybe you want to get in on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on that action. You're all good. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you could even combine some of these live bets together in a same game parlay. It's great because when you win with FanDuel, you get paid instantly. How about this? Carolina's football win totals are already live at FanDuel. The Tar Heels are set at 7.5. You just pick over or under. Good luck with that. It's not a crazy schedule. I might take the over. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, here we go. Getting ready for the game. Carolina at Syracuse tomorrow, February 15th, up at the what's now called the JMA Wireless Dome. Coach, who are we kidding? I will never not call it the Carrier Dome. That's ridiculous. 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. We don't yet have the FanDuel line, but Ken Pom has it Carolina -6. That is, I don't know. We'll see. All-time series record, Carolina leads 17-7. The Tar Heels lost the last meeting in the series last year up at Syracuse. It was the last game in that stretch of dropping 3 out of 5. Their coach is Red Autry in his second season following the Jim Boeheim era. As a reminder, Coach Rob, no Boeheim means no zone, at least as a baseline for what they do. How do you have to retrain your brain after literally decades of thinking 2-3 zone when you walk into that building?
No, it's definitely different, and I'm excited about getting the Heels started in the right direction. So I've got them winning 82-79. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be back and forth. I don't think it'll get, one team will get more than a 2 or 3 possession lead at any point in the game. But I do have the Heels pulling it out late.
I like that too, Coach. Yeah, I think that 6-point line that KenPom has feels too big. We might see a run or two here or there, but I think whoever goes on that run will eventually be reeled back in. We know that Carolina is plenty capable of being reeled back in. We've seen it time and again this year. I like your prediction. I was actually going to go a little bit lower on the road, but with a similar spread. I was going to go Carolina 75-71 in this game, Coach. I like where you're at there. Here's just a little bit more on Syracuse, folks. They are 150th in the net as of Thursday. Carolina is 50th by comparison, so that makes this a quad 3 game. They're 128th at KenPom. By comparison, the Tar Heels are 45th. Right now, Coach, Syracuse 11-14 on the season, 5-9 overall. Their best non-con win, Coach, I am not kidding with what I am about to say, was over Cornell, who's 130th at KenPom right now. Their ACC wins are all over like blech teams: Georgia Tech, Boston College, Notre Dame, Cal, and BC again. Their non-con losses, they don't have any that are bad. It's like they beat the teams they were supposed to beat and lost to who they were supposed to beat. They lost to Texas, Texas Tech, Tennessee, Georgetown, and Maryland. And then their ACC losses is everyone else that they've played, including now losing at Miami. Coach, we've already talked about 2 of the starters, 6'4" JJ Starling, 6'11" Eddie Lampkin. The others are Jair Davis, a 6'7" Delaware transfer, 8.5 points a game, 5 rebounds. Elijah Moore, he's a 6'4" freshman guard, 5.5 points, rebound and a half. And then Lucas Taylor, who started at Wake, his career first 2 years there was at Georgia State last year. He's a 6'5" senior guard, 5.8 points a game, 2.3 rebounds. Coach, basically everyone I look at from Syracuse, it seems like they have either a negative or close to negative assist to turnover ratio. They don't turn it over they're not like 300th in the nation. But as I look at that, I feel like Carolina could use some of their quick guards, lengthy athleticism to force some turnovers. And as we know, the Tar Heels are at their best when they're able to do that, get out and run and get a bunch of fast break points. Yeah,
I was noticing that too. It's almost 1-to-1 assist turnover ratio as a team. So it's not horrible, but it is something I think they can exploit if they really, it's about defensive intensity. And we talked about that with the run that we're on right now. You're going to make shots some days you're not, but you can always bring that defensive intensity. The 50-50 balls is what's going to be huge to me because those are long rebounds, 50-50 balls, or loose balls, and those turn into live ball turnovers or transition opportunities. So those are opportunities that the Heels have to take advantage of on Saturday.
Oh, man. It makes me think back to that ball in the Pittsburgh game that squirted around on the floor with everyone diving after it right there at the end. One of the big blows for Syracuse this year, they lost freshman Donnie Freeman to season-ending foot injury. He was their second leading scorer, so that's tough. And a good kind of break for Carolina. He's a 6'9" forward. They do utilize their bench a lot, guys like Chris Bell, Jaquan Carlos, Naheem McLeod, and a couple others as well. Coach, we talked about JJ Starling not being a good shooter, but look, it is Syracuse as a team. Carolina, not a great three-point shooting team, but Syracuse is even worse, 32.1%, 262nd in the nation. But here's the kicker for me, Coach. Syracuse as a team from the free throw line, 69.3%. And, Carolina has had some issues with defending without fouling this year, but you're not terribly worried about it. So that goes back to your idea of fouling for profit in this game. I think this is a game where you could see opportunities there. But, Coach, as you might imagine, because of those numbers, Syracuse takes and makes a good portion of their shots from 2-point range. So that's something we're going to have to watch out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to attack the rim. Just because they don't shoot it well from out there doesn't mean they're not going to shoot threes. They will. Their attempts, I mean, they're still going to obviously try to keep as much balance as possible. But when those guys attack the rim, it's going to be those. How are we going to defend that? Are we going to be able to keep them in front, or does it come those post guys going to be able to at least Jay Wash and Jay Withers can help defend and protect the rim. So we're going to have to play those guys some major minutes too.
All right, y'all. That's it. Carolina at Syracuse tomorrow. Let's get ready for it. We will obviously be live postcast after that. Let me fly through the weekend whip around. Carolina women's basketball in action last night, Thursday. Coach and I are recording before that game, but Carolina is hosting Virginia Tech on Thursday. And then the big one, Coach, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Carolina hosts number 10 NC State. The Tar Heels are 12th in the nation, NC State 10th. Pending the Virginia Tech result, obviously, Carolina goes into that game tied for 5th in the ACC. NC State is 2nd, just one conference loss. So a big opportunity against the team in Raleigh. Should be a great game. Baseball, first pitch of the year this weekend starts today. Tar Heels hosting Texas Tech. This is personal for me. I've got a lot of Texas Tech grads in my wife's side of the family, and so definitely not a weekend to be a Red Raider. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all on ACC Network Extra, 4, 2, and 1 p.m. Heels preseason number 6 should be another great year. Softball beat Coastal Carolina 16-11 midweek. They got the Tar Heel Invitational going on this weekend. It started yesterday, Thursday, against Drexel, 2 games there. Today, playing Princeton at 3, George Mason 5:30, and then tomorrow wrapping up action with Princeton at 1:30. Wrestling hosts Virginia tonight, 7, ACC Network Extra. Carolina 16th in the nation. Women's tennis off this weekend, but men's tennis is hosting Citadel tomorrow. Great action there. Women's lacrosse at number 5 Florida on Saturday noon on ESPN+. The Tar Heels are 3rd in the nation. This is a great top 5 matchup. The men host Stony Brook today, 6 p.m. on ACC Network Extra. Women's golf in action starting Sunday down in Melbourne, Florida, the Moon Golf Invitational. The men are off this weekend, but they start the Prestige on Monday out in La Quinta, California. Swimming and diving, nothing this weekend, but ACC championships start Tuesday. Gymnastics is at Pitt tonight, 7 on ACC Network Extra. Track and field starting this weekend, today at the Eagle Invite up at Boston College, and then fencing, the Junior Olympics today through Monday in Charlotte. Coach, I felt like I was just reading all the legal jargon at the bottom of like a drug commercial or something like that, but we got through it. Crazy slate of games, Coach. You think the Tar Heels can take NC State Sunday in women's basketball? That's a massive game.
It's a massive game, but of course they can, and just love to see that happen. And I always think about Coach Williams when we talk about NC State, because he always thought that was the biggest rival, was the NC State rival. So huge game, and I would love to see the Lady Tar Heels win that one.
Me too. They've been playing really well lately. 3 straight road wins they had, and before another win. And then speaking of, the men hosting NC State next Wednesday, Coach. So let's go 2-0 against the Wolf Puppies this week. Guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Coach Rob and the Buffaloes have their penultimate regular season matchup tomorrow on the road, right, Coach? On Saturday? Yep. Yes, and so be cheering them on. Keep tabs on Milligan, and Pat Kilby and his team kick off their state playoffs tonight, Friday. So all our guys getting in close to the postseason are in it, and so really happy for the seasons both of them are having. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video, man, do that right now on YouTube. We're closing in on 10,000 subscribers. You can be the very next one to help us get there. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders program, man, a great way to go next level with the show. That link is in the show notes, as is the link for Locked On Tar Heels Discord, where we have great conversations going all the time. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. As I said, we'll be back together tomorrow, live post-game after the game at Syracuse. But until then, good luck tomorrow, Coach Rob. Peace.